I'm joined now by Remi Piet from Miami. He's the Senior Director of America's Market Intelligence. That's a consulting company that helps businesses in Latin America. Talk to us about the rise and fall of Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, a former Wall Street banker. Hasn't been in office for a very long time.
I mean, he hasn't been in office for a long time. He was elected in 2016, but it's been a steady fall for Kuczynski. He already barely avoided an impeachment in December. We had to negotiate the pardon to former President Fujimori, the father of the opposition leader today. But this was a long time coming, and the problem in Peru is the fact that there's a constant political instability. When Kuczynski was elected in 2016, he actually did not have a majority in parliament, and even if he's being replaced by his vice president, this is still going to be an issue down the road.
And so what's next for Peru?
So Martin Vizcarra was the first vice president. Currently, the ambassador to Canada will step in. But if the fact that Fujimori, which is running on a populistic right-wing platform, is holding the parliament, will likely prevent Vizcarra from moving forward from key economic reform that the country needs. It's also happening at a time which is important for Peru, because Peru was about to host the Summit of the Americas in 2 weeks, where a key decision will be taken for South America as a whole.
Is that a big black eye as they prepare for that big event? I mean, even Donald Trump's talking about going.
I mean, Donald Trump confirmed that it was coming. I mean, it's an important event happening every 3 years in Latin America. There's key issues to be talked about, such as, for example, the rise of tariffs from the Trump administration on steel that will severely impact Brazil and other countries in Latin America. There's also key decisions to be taken in terms of infrastructure, in terms of economic reform in different countries. Now, the event will continue taking place. It's going to be a key challenge for Martin Vizcarra to be able to host it in such a short amount of time, and more importantly, it's after the summit, trying to be able to develop a political platform and key reforms without having a strong majority in parliament and facing a populistic opposition with Fujimori during 3 years.
Talk to us about the tentacles of Odebrecht, because we've talked a lot about it, and with regards to Brazil, now Peru, there are other countries as well implicated. Talk to us about this corruption case and just how widespread it is.
I mean, it's widespread all across Latin America, and ironically, Peru was maybe, and Kuczynski more than anything, was maybe not the most corrupt of presidential leaders in Latin America. We've seen cases in Colombia, Brazil, obviously. In the case of Peru, we already have 2 former presidents, Humala and Toledo, that have been convicted for corruption through the Odebrecht scandal. In the case of Kuczynski, basically his situation was that he had worked as a consultant for Odebrecht. He's being now potentially impeached. We had to resign on the fact that he might have tried to convince through bribes some congressman to prevent his impeachment in December. But he's probably less corrupt than most political leaders in Latin America and linked to the Odebrecht scandal. The key issue in Peru is not so much about corruption, although corruption is very present in the country, but it's about this constant deadlock in the Congress between Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of the former dictator Fujimori from the 1980s, that actually wants to take over power and become the next president.
Remi, I was talking to a journalist in Brazil not too long ago, and they were talking about their corruption cases there and what it's done to the psyche of the people of Brazil. I'm wondering, what does this do to the people of Peru? You're talking about this stalemate, and also the corruption itself. How are people in Peru taking all of this?
Well, there's an overall feeling that the whole political class is corrupt and should not be trusted, and that's actually on this situation that then populistic leaders actually flourish. The key issue here is looking at down the road at the economic development of the country also. There's strong potential in Peru for interesting development, interesting investment in infrastructure, mining, energy, but also retail. But it's very important for companies that want to invest to understand the political reality, both at the federal and local level, and know with whom they're working, because corruption is a fact, and it's important to know with whom you're working and be able to develop the right strategy there.
And so the people you're talking to, how are they looking at it?
Well, they're looking at Odebrecht as potentially also a case where it's going to be possible to clean up the political class in Latin America. That's something that was deeply needed in Brazil, deeply needed in Mexico, in other countries, and potentially the long-term future for Latin America might be bright. But we have to go through those couple of years where convictions are going to be happening, and it's very important to make right due diligence for different political or economic actors when they want to be part of the future of each country.
Turning the page on this chapter, Remi Piet joining us from Miami. Thanks so much.